From our 22 News Broadcast Center, this is 22 News in Focus.
Good afternoon and welcome to 22 News in Focus. I'm Rich Teddemer. Westover Air Reserve Base began operations in 1940 and for the past 76 years been an important part of our nation's defense and our region's economy. The base celebrated its 75th anniversary last year. It has managed to grow and change with the times and survive many cuts to the defense budget. And while other bases have closed, Westover has managed to remain active and is the nation's largest air reserve base. Joining me now to discuss the future of Westover is Colonel Albert Lupenski, the commander of Westover Air Reserve Base. Thank you, Colonel, for being here today.
Great to be here.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
It's nice to have you here. What a great history Westover has, too. Started back in 1939. I think it was appropriated like 2 weeks after the Germans invaded Poland, so it was really set up to help out during World War II. Tell us about the history real quick of Westover.
Well, it goes back to the, like you said, pre-World War II, and during World War II had a great history. The Candy Bomber actually was stationed at Westover. He's the gentleman that would drop candy bars during the Berlin airlift, back in the day. General Curtis LeMay, who was the commander of the Strategic Air Command, also served at Westover. In fact, the desk in my office used to be General Curtis LeMay's desk and has a plaque on it. So it's got a lot of history, a lot of old infrastructure, and we're doing the best we can to keep it going.
One thing I never realized, we say Westover all the time on the news. I never realized, named after a man, Major General Oscar Westover, who passed away in a plane crash a year before the base was started. So that's who it's named after.
Right, and coincidentally, this year at the air show, we actually had his grandkids out there.
How about that?
And it was awesome to take them up in the tower and show them Westover, and it was a great experience for everybody.
Let's talk about the Air Force Reserve's role right now in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Well, we're busy, and we're gonna stay busy. I mean, the threat in the world is not changing, and the reserve play a big part in helping the active duty move the mission. And we like to say, we live locally but we serve globally. I've got missions out on the road all the time, air crew flying what we call downrange, down into Afghanistan and Iraq, and we're doing great things.
How many people work at Westover?
Well, right now we've got 4,700 people that actually work at Westover. 2,700 of them are Air Force Reserve members, and the other remaining members are Marine Reserve, Army Reserve, and civilians. So we've got kind of a joint flavor out there.
We're always worried about budget cuts when it comes to Westover as well. What's that like, and how do we deal with that?
Well, budget cuts are always tough, and the continuing resolution that we go through on a yearly basis seems like really kind of creates a little bit of challenge when it comes to funding. But we always seem to get through it because we got very resilient people that are very innovative, and they figure out ways to get the job done. So we do struggle a little bit, but not to the point where we can't get the mission done, and we're doing the mission.
I was going to say, does those budget cuts affect the mission?
They don't really affect the mission. They just make it sometimes harder and more challenging to get it done. We're still doing construction out there, though. We've got, this year, just shy of $50 million worth of construction going on. So we're putting money into the base to keep it viable. So
morale at the base must be okay then.
Oh, morale's great. I mean, I've got folks that just, they work their tails off, and they're doing awesome things. We don't have many problems, and people seem to be happy, and we're producing.
It's an amazing base too, because the runways are so long. It really allows you to do a lot of things.
They are. I think it's the second largest runway in New England. It used to be a Strategic Air Command base, and B-52s used to be here. So if you talk to the locals that lived here back in the day, they remember the B-52s taking off and rattling their windows. So we needed those long runways for those big airplanes.
And speaking of that, I just read that at one time it was a backup for the space shuttle?
It was.
How about that?
There's quite a few bases around the world that were backup for the space shuttle. Of course, the space shuttle's not flying anymore. Right. So, but yeah, it's that long. It's over 11,000 feet
I know
long.
We've seen Air Force One land here.
They do. They come up here on occasion when they're pre-positioning for things, and we do host them.
Of course, there's always the air shows that happen. And last May, the base hosted an air show. What's that like? Oh,
the air show was, it was epic. I mean, it was by far the biggest air show they've ever had. 375,000 of your best friends come to visit your base. We had a few struggles, and some people were complaining about the traffic, but, Air Force bases are meant to keep people out, not welcome all those people in. So we did a great job, I think, with the security issues that we thought we may have. We did a great job.
Well, traffic wasn't that bad, was it?
Well, not for me. I was there all day. But we've taken some of the suggestions into account, and when we do our air show in 2018, will be the next one, we've got a plan to try to make it a little easier.
What does it cost to put on an air show?
It's hundreds of thousands of dollars to put it on, and we do get funding through the Galaxy Community Council, which is one of our civic organizations. They are one of the co-sponsors of the air show, and they raise money. And then we do get money from the Air Force to put these things on because it's a great community partnering. It lets people see what we do out there.
I was going to say, what's the goal of it? Because it is free admission, right? I mean, so what's the goal? What is the plan for that when you have an air show?
Well, the goal is to show the community what we do and to kind of give back to the community. And it's important when you want to grow new leaders and new airmen. You want them to see what we do and encourage people to join the military.
A spectacular video we're looking at right there. Of course, there's a C-5, which Westover is known for. Those are amazing aircraft.
Oh, it's amazing. And some of the aerobatics that were done that day were incredible. You know, I just want to put a plug in for the guys over at Westfield because they're going to be doing an air show in 2017. And I believe they've got a big act coming. And we just want to make sure that they get the same support that we got because they're mission partners across town, and we have a very good relationship with the National Guard.
You also, after the air show happened, you had an inspection. Tell us about that. What does that entail?
We did. The Air Force developed this new inspection process whereby we get evaluated on how we evaluate ourselves. So it's a constant evaluation of how we're compliant and doing our job. So that they call it a capstone event, and that happened in August. They brought a team in to look at us, and without going into too many details, we received the grade of highly effective, which is the second highest grade you can get, and one of 4 units in the entire Air Force Reserve Command that received that grade. So we did really good, and it's all about the people. They cinched their boots down, and they just did incredible work.
How often are those inspections held?
They're every 2 years. We're already into our new inspection process now, and we're not preparing for an inspection because that's not what we do anymore. We just stay compliant the whole time. They come take a look at us, and I'm sure next time we're shooting for that outstanding, which nobody has gotten yet.
All right, that's a goal to shoot for, no doubt about that. We'll continue our conversation with Colonel Lupenski after the break. You're watching 22 News in Focus. Welcome back to 22 News in Focus. Today we're talking with Colonel Albert Lupenski, the commander of Westover Air Reserve Base in Chicopee. And another fun fact about Westover right here. I didn't realize this either, that Westover used to develop film for reconnaissance flights. And literally at Westover, the film for the U-2 spy planes were developed there. In fact, the film that found out that the Cuban Missile Crisis was about to happen was developed right in Chicopee.
Isn't that amazing? That's amazing. I mean, the history behind the base, I mean, you can go on and on and on about the things that have happened there. And we're continuing to make history, and we'll continue to make history.
That's very cool. Now, in October, we had the annual fiscal budget crunch in Congress. Does this continue to have effect on Westover?
Well, it does. Like we said before, not in the sense that we can't get the mission done, but in the sense that it just makes it a little bit harder. When the budget doesn't come till later in the year, it's sometimes hard to plan to do things. But we like I said, we have innovative airmen that figure out how to do it. It's just a little more challenging, and we all suffer from it. It's not just like it's specific to Westover. It's just it just makes things a little more difficult. But we figure out how to get around it.
Westover lost like 300 positions, right? In like half the C-5 fleet.
We did. We lost 8 C-5s. All of them are now gone. We're down to 8. Those 8 went down to Lackland Air Force Base. We lost 275. Part-time positions and 59 full-time positions. But we were real good at figuring out how to make sure everybody had a seat when the music stopped. I mean, we put some positions aside, we had some attrition, we had some retirements, and we kept positions open so that everybody that wanted a job had a job when it was over.
These planes are always state-of-the-art. When we think of the C-5s, when we think of Westover, do they get upgrades constantly?
They do, and in fact, that's what we're doing with the C-5s now. The 8 that we currently have, you'll start to see them move out in the next several months. We're getting ready to move our first one down to conversion, and it's going to be converted into an M model, a C5M instead of a C5B. Way more capable, all modernized, new engines, about a $90 million price tag on each one of them. So we're looking at about $720 million worth of upgrades to these airplanes over the next 2 years.
And these planes are so huge, but they can stay up in the air forever with refueling, right?
They can. They can refuel. We have a great partnership with the guys up in New Hampshire and Maine, the tankers up there, and we practice air refueling all the time.
Speaking of upgrades, you mentioned about construction going on at the base. Tell us about that.
We do. We over the last year, we've done quite a few things. The James Street Gate, which we're finally going to reopen, has been completely renovated. We've got a new underground hydrant system that's just been finished. That allows us to refuel airplanes without using trucks. They can just hook up right from the ground right to the airplane. And then we've got some renovations going on over in our lodging area. We have 400 rooms on base, and 200 of those rooms are being modernized to bring them up to date.
Recently, Westover was in the news about drones. Drones
Yes.
are everywhere, it seems like.
They
and there
are.
are now new regulations about where and when people can fly drones around the base. Tell us about that.
Well, you know, we don't really have a drone problem at Westover, but we wanted to get out in front of it to make sure we didn't end up with one. I mean, these drones, they can be very dangerous when you're operating them around big airplanes. A small bird can cause millions of dollars of damage to an airplane engine. So you can only imagine what a 5 or 6 pound drone could do if we run into it. So there's all new regulations with the FAA to register your drones, but we're just trying to get out in front of it with the local community to say, if you have drones and you're going to fly them around Westover, you need to make sure you register them, because we're trying to protect everybody, keep everybody safe.
Has that happened at all? Have there been?
I've not had.
I know there's been a lot of near misses and things like that. We haven't ever heard about a plane going down right now because of drone use.
No, and at Westover we haven't had any reports of drones in the area, but we're just trying to be out in front to make sure we don't end up with a problem.
Yeah, I mean, but they're everywhere, it seems.
They're everywhere. I mean,
especially this last holiday
right,
season.
you have to register. If it's a half a pound or more up to 50 pounds, you're required to register them with the FAA now. I mean, you can imagine a 10-pound drone hitting an airplane that's going 180 miles an hour.
Right.
I mean, it can cause some damage.
Plus, a lot of these drones are probably being run by people who really have little to no experience about flying.
Right,
So
right.
that's the scary part about it.
So we're just staying out in front of it, keeping the public knowledgeable about what they need to do and how to be careful.
Let's talk about about the airplanes in general that you have there and the upgrades that happen from time to time. You have to stay state of the art because the technology is changing constantly with the threats that the U.S. faces.
Yes, the reason we're upgrading these airplanes is because they're going to be able to fly farther, faster, higher. The M model, the C5M, has broken all kinds of records for time to climb and things like that for airplanes of that category. So we do need to stay up to date. They're more fuel efficient, and although fuel prices are at an all-time low right now, we need to be ready for when they go back up again to be able to save fuel.
And eventually they will go back.
And they will go back up again.
What about the municipal airport? Tell us about that.
We've got a great partnership with those guys over there. Mike Bolton, the guy that runs the airfield, is doing an awesome job. We're what they call a joint use airfield. We actually own the airfield, and Mike Bolton and his folks over at WMDC, they run the civilian side. And we're actually doing something right now where we're trying to figure out a way to keep the airfield open 24 hours. Right now we're open from 7 in the morning till 11 at night because we're not funded to have the airfield open in the early morning because we just don't use it then. So they're looking for a way to attract customers to bring them in so they can leave before 7 and land after 11. So right now we're working with them and the state to figure out a way to do that. And it's being staffed, and we think we've got a way ahead, and we think we got a pretty good chance of making that happen. We
were talking before we were on the air about the possibility of snow and how you had to deal with that snow last year. So many feet of snow on the runways. I was surprised how much it actually costs to keep those runways clear.
It's expensive, and that's why we're so glad there's no snow this year.
So far.
Of course, this weekend we'll see what happens. We'll see if the weather guys are right. I'm sure your weather guy's right, so
of course
I'm looking forward to talking to him after the show here. Yeah, let's hope we don't get any more snow.
Yeah, but it does cost a lot, though, right?
It does.
To keep those plows going, keep those runways
It's very expensive, and that's money that can be used other places if it doesn't snow.
So fingers crossed. After what we went through last winter, it would be nice to have a winter with a little less snow.
Right, or
than
none.
we had.
Or none.
We'll keep our fingers crossed. When we return, we'll talk about the future of the base and the recent promotion for the Colonel. You're watching 22 News in Focus. Welcome back to 22 News in Focus. Today we're talking about the mission and future of Westover Air Reserve Base in Chicopee, and our guest is Colonel Albert Lupenski, the commander of Westover Air Reserve Base. Colonel, thanks once again for joining us. We appreciate it. Governor Baker visited just a week before Christmas. Tell us about that visit.
He did, and it was great to have him out there. It's great when the state governor comes out to see what you do at your base. And he brought General Rice along with him, who's the state adjutant general, who's a great friend and a great supporter. You know, it's interesting because, you know, we compete for the same resources, us and the Guard. You know, we're part of a three-component Air Force, you know, active duty, Guard, and Reserve, and we're competing for the same people when it comes to recruiting. Yet General Rice came out and threw his support behind Westover, which is really, really, it's interesting, and it's awesome to have him and Governor Baker come out and support Westover the way they did.
They appreciate the history. They appreciate the role you play.
They do. They understand that we're important. They're important. We have different missions. They have a fighter mission over at Westfield, and we have more of an airlift mission at Westover. But we complement each other.
What are you hearing from state and federal representatives and the Pentagon about the future here at Westover?
Well, I think Westover is very viable. The state is interested in making sure we stay viable. Mayor Koss is a great supporter. In fact, we have a community partnership program that the Air Force has gotten us involved in, where we bring people in from the local community, the state, the Massachusetts Military Task Force, Mayor Koss and his folks, and we're trying to find ways to share resources. We're trying to find ways to save money by partnering in certain places. They have a program out at Hanscom where they're buying salt for salting the roads, and they're pooling their money and buying it together. So we're trying to find ways to do things like that with the city and the state to save money, stay viable, and be good partners.
With its long history and the role that it's played throughout the years, is it always going to be there, or is there ever a chance that closure is on the table?
Well, you know, that question gets asked a lot, and you know, we basically just continue to do the mission. But what I can tell you is this: Westover is of strategic importance. We are the closest strategic airlift base to Europe right now. Right now, we're doing great things. We're putting money into the base. Partnering with the local community. So Westover is viable, but those are questions that do get asked. And I know it's on people's minds, but we'll just press forward, keep doing the best we're doing, and see what happens.
That was the reason it was selected in the first place, with the
right, and it's been around for 75 years, so
right.
so far so good.
Yeah. Now, how do you deal with those possible future cuts? What concerns come with them?
Well, you know, it's you know, people get concerned because they have jobs and they're always worried about the potential of that happening. But you know, it's not been an issue. And every base in the country worries about this, but right now we're pressing forward, moving on. We're improving the infrastructure and doing great things out at Westover.
The boost to the local economy is pretty impressive as well.
It is $221 million economic impact. The air show alone had a $15 million economic impact for those 2 days. So we are a big part of the community when it comes to economics.
So that'll be a regular biannual event, hopefully, air shows?
I hope so. I kind of made a deal with the Guard because they hadn't had an air show since 2010. And we were originally going to have our air show in 2017. And they really wanted to have an air show because it's important. It's important for the community to know the Guard is there and for the Guard to be doing the same thing we're doing. So we kind of traded off. We're going to do ours in 18 instead, and they're going to do theirs in 17. And please go out to Westfield and see their air show.
Yeah, they're like I said, they're great for the economy. What would you like the public to know about the base and its role in our defense?
I want them to know that we're their neighbors next door. I mean, you've got people living next door to you that are in the reserve, and we're doing great things. Like I said, we live locally, serve globally. We're getting ready to do some deployments here in the near future. And I got a lot of hard, dedicated men and women that are doing great things at Westover.
You've also had a promotion to talk about here. Tell us about that.
I have. I was selected for Brigadier General. I'm just waiting on a pin-on date now. It's a very humbling experience. You know, you don't get here on your own. You know, most of the reason why you get promoted is because you've had great people working with and for you and kind of propping you up as you go along. Great mentors, and it's certainly not something that if you had asked me this 15 years ago, would I be a Brigadier General, I would have said, you're crazy. There's just no way. I just never thought that I would have that opportunity. But I've got to thank a lot of people, to include my wife, who's followed me all over the country and done, you know, she's just been great. So it's mostly other people, believe it or not. It's mostly, and you really need to remain grounded and make sure that you realize that.
Where did all this start for you?
This all started in college when I enlisted in the Air National Guard. As an administrative specialist because I wanted to fly. And the Guard guys down in West Hampton Beach sent me to helicopter school. So I started as a helicopter pilot way back in 1987. 85, what am I saying, 1985. And now here I am.
And you said your wife has been behind you every step of the way.
The whole way. She literally gave up a big executive position in New York to follow me to Alaska. of all places.
It's not easy.
And we spent 8 years in Alaska.
Wow.
What were supposed to be just a couple turned into 8. So she made a lot of sacrifice. Actually, when they pin me on, I think I'm going to give her 2 stars because she's really the boss. You know?
That's part of the military life, though. You do move around from spot to spot.
It is. No, you know, the reserves don't do that much. You know, but when you get to my level, when you get to be a commander, especially a wing commander, we tend to move every 2 or 3 or 4 years. So we make that commitment to be mobile, and this is my 7th assignment now in the Guard and Reserve. And I've been a Guard and Reserve guy my whole life. I was never on active duty. Yeah. So I've moved more than most reserve people would move around. You
know, Brigadier General is nice, but you also got to throw out the first ball at Fenway Park.
I did. We were just talking about that.
That might be even bigger.
Talk about that on the break, and now you want to talk about scary. I mean, I bet. I did not want to throw it in the dirt because my brother decided to send me a bunch of videos before to show how people couldn't do it. When I saw guys like,
50 Cent.
When I saw him throw it in the crowd, Michael Jordan throw it in the dirt, I said, I better be careful. So I actually practiced.
Did you? Did you get a strike?
It was a little high and right, but not in the dirt. Not in the dirt.
What was that like?
It was amazing. I mean,
bet.
37,000 some odd people screaming, and you're standing out there on a mound, kind of on an island, hoping.
So here's a pilot who's done just about everything, and he's a little afraid stepping on the mound.
It was quite terrifying.
All right, thanks very much, Colonel. We appreciate it, and we will have the last word right after this break. You're watching 22 News in Focus. You're watching 22 News in Focus. Today we've been discussing the recent changes at Westover Air Reserve Base in Chicopee and the future of the base with the base commander, Colonel Albert Lupenski, soon to be Brigadier General Albert Lupenski. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Once again. So it's a definite thumbs up for Westover in the future ahead.
It is. It is. We're going to continue to do great things. We're going to continue to have great people. Recruiting is going great, and morale is great.
What would you say for someone who's considering a life in the military?
I'd say come join the reserve. Come join the reserve. It's a great way to pay for your education, to be patriotic, to serve, and there's a lot of camaraderie. And we teach people skills that they use for the rest of their lives.
You also get to see the world, as you have done.
You get to see the world if you want.
All right. Thank you very much, Colonel. We appreciate it. That's our program for today. We want to thank Colonel Lupenski for joining us. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. And thanks to you at home for watching. If you missed any of our broadcasts, you can always watch it in full on our website at wwlp.com. From all of us here at 22 News, have a wonderful Sunday.